Welcome to JGTCR, I'm Cope, and today we are tuning the Aston Martin One-77. Let's get into it. The first thing we notice when driving this Aston Martin is how hefty it is, and lugging all of this weight around impacts every aspect of the drive. When it comes to power and power delivery, the engine seems to have a very strange and very narrow power band for use. It is a very fine line keeping the Aston Martin 177 motivated and not, and the outcome of failing is either wheel spinning like crazy or bogging down and moving as fast as a herd of turtles stampeding through peanut butter. When the power comes on, it does so quite aggressively. When coupled with the weight, the only outcome is wheel spin. But if we try and be smooth with the throttle, it just bogs down. Finding and staying in the sweet spot of the power band is a tedious task, but it does give a sense of achievement and mastery when we manage to keep it all together for an entire lap. The Aston Martin 177 wheel spins at every opportunity, and we can often find ourselves punching our frequent flyer drift cards with some four-wheel drift action. Even long sweeping corners can easily turn into a drift session. And when it does drift, the 177 likes to drag itself off circuit. So be very cautious when it starts to slide. When it comes to handling, the Aston Martin turns okay, as long as it's the only thing that we are doing. If we want to make any adjustments while cornering to acceleration or braking, we are running the risk of running wide. As such, if we want to avoid things going pear-shaped, we need to get all of our braking and adjustments done before we enter the corner. However, when it comes to braking, the moment we think of using them, they lock up. Suffice to say, we will need to use some of the furthest brake markers in GT7 history. Slowing this vehicle down takes a very, very long time, and we must be very delicate with how we do it. Let's collect our time. (7 minutes 10.8 seconds). And now it's tune time. When completely modified, the Aston Martin 177 had a few issues with understeer. So to address that, we kept the nose tilted slightly via the body height adjustment. We also added 20 kilos of ballast at a ballast positioning of -35. The rest of the tune is relatively even Stevens across the board, with a few tweaks here and there addressing stability and of course the understeer. Let's see how the tune handles a lap of the Nürburgring. This really is the ugly duckling of driving experiences. The Aston Martin 177 is a completely different vehicle post-modification and tune. It is now fast, agile, and very responsive, almost too responsive. The nose does like to lift, so a bit more weight up front may be necessary for some, but in its current form it is manageable. The acceleration is still aggressive, but it can be modulated with throttle input where needed. It has an incredible amount of pull when the power is put down properly. Be aware that it will snap oversteer if we accelerate too hard, so it's best to roll onto the throttle input. When drift does occur, it is controllable, but it can be twitchy, so it's best to put an end to it before we end up on a date with Bazzy Rizzy. The handling itself is a million times better. The turn-in is quick, but it is coupled with a slight delay as speed increases. The braking has also improved, but it does make the vehicle squirrely. Trying to wash off that speed too quickly does make the tail end step out. If we stomp on the brakes too heavily, the fronts like to lock up. This can cause understeer and send us careening off the black stuff and off to mow the lawn. And in the worst case scenario, all four wheels can lock up. And in this situation, we are as likely to have a good outcome as we are to win a decent prize on the GT7 daily roulette ticket. So make sure to brake wisely. The best bet is to roll on to all of the inputs as they are extremely sensitive. Use nothing at 100% unless in areas predetermined as safe, which basically means in straight lines. Let's collect our time. 6 minutes 13.9 seconds. And now the drift tune. Some significant adjustments were made to make the Aston Martin 177 drift. Our body height adjustment is lower at the rear than it is at the front, giving us a squatting stance. Our anti-roll bar at the rear has been reduced to 3, and the natural frequency of the rear is also softer at 2.40. All of our efforts at the rear are to give us more push power and directional drift. The negative camber, both front and rear, were also bumped up to help us with steering, control, and directional movement. Acceleration and braking sensitivity in the differential gear were both reduced, but the initial torque was left at max. This is due to the power delivery being very aggressive. Another important note is that the ballast has shifted from the front to the rear. The ballast is now set at 30 kilos at a ballast positioning of 25. The extra weight over the rear wheels dulls the aggression of the power delivery and gives us more traction while drifting. A paradoxical statement in itself, I know, but this is what gives us directional drift, push power, and ultimately is what stops us from spinning right the way around. Let's see it in action. There is no mistaking an amazing drift car when you find one. And the Aston Martin 177 is exactly that, an amazing drift car. Its wide stance makes it naturally stable while throwing it around the track. This in and of itself does most of the heavy lifting when trying to tune this vehicle to drift. And with our tune dialed in, the 177 is incredibly agile, responsive, and easy to set on the track. The steering has pinpoint precision and does not fight at all. There is plenty of power to be had, and the power delivery itself is phenomenal. At low, medium, or high RPM, the power curve is smooth and buttery and always at the ready. There is no predicament we can find ourselves in that this vehicle cannot pull us out of. All of these traits make the Aston Martin 177 an incredible drift car in any condition, but in particular when drifting in groups, tandems, and negotiating drama and accidents that often occur on any given drift pass. The Aston Martin 177 starts off as a very fast but sloppy vehicle. In factory trim, it is stubborn, set in its ways, and drags its feet when being guided around the track. But once modified and tuned, its potential is fully unlocked. The 177 is attentive, agile, and always at the ready to make our moves count when racing. While it can be squirrely under brakes and occasionally on acceleration, it is to be expected from such a powerful vehicle. As a drift car, the Aston Martin 177 is extraordinarily stable and up there as one of the best alternative drift options. And on a more personal note, this vehicle will definitely have more time spent on it than the standard 4 tune laps to make this video in the near future. It is that good. Overall, it is a remarkable transformation that has occurred in the Aston Martin 177, and an outstanding driving experience that cannot be recommended enough. And that's all we have for you today, so until next time, keep racing!